This is VOA Africa.
Hello, I'm Esther Githo-Ewart. It's Tuesday, May 4th. Welcome to Africa 54. We continue to work remotely because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But what hasn't changed is our commitment to bringing you the latest and most important news from the African continent and around the world. This is today's Africa 54. Health experts worry that public skepticism about taking the relatively small number of doses African countries have battled to procure could prolong a pandemic that has already killed more than 3.3 million people worldwide. So-called vaccine hesitancy is a global phenomenon. France and the United States are struggling with it, and skepticism on the rise in some Asian countries such as Japan. In Africa, health experts say a combination of warnings about possible rare blood clots, the criticism of vaccines by some leaders, and mixed messages over expiry dates have all contributed to the slow rollout across the continent. COVID-19 has also not hit Africa's 1.3 billion people to the extent that has ravaged some countries in Europe, Brazil, the United States, and India, leaving some on the continent doubting the seriousness of the disease. The official death toll in Africa now stands at 121,000, lower than the United Kingdom alone. On Monday, Tanzania announced new anti-coronavirus measures, saying it wanted to prevent the importation of new variants. Among the new measures, travelers, both foreigners and Tanzanians, will be required to present negative COVID-19 tests at border points. President Samia Suluhu Hassan's approach to tackling COVID-19 contrasts sharply with her late predecessor, John Magufuli, who dismissed fears of the infection and promoted remedies such as steam inhalation and herbal concoctions as a cure. Magufuli, who died in March, has urged Tanzanians to shun mask wearing and also denounced vaccines as a Western conspiracy, frustrating the World Health Organization and local critics. Vaccination continues to be a key intervention in the fight against the coronavirus. As African countries just concluded African Vaccination Week on April 30th, observers say some countries are doing better than others in COVID-19 vaccine rollout. In Nigeria, health authorities are stepping up efforts to vaccinate more people against the coronavirus after a slow rollout with support development partners. Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu spoke with Dr. Tunji Funsho, chair of Rotary's Nigeria's National Polio Plus Committee.
Vaccines, there have always been people at the fringe who have been against vaccine, particularly when it comes to mass vaccination campaigns during epidemics. It's not new. For polio also, we faced a lot of opposition because of wrong information that was being peddled that the vaccine will cause infertility. And I remind them now that we are polio-free in Africa, that Africa's population, has actually almost doubled in 30 years.
Last year, Nigeria was declared polio-free by the WHO. That was a big milestone, but it took a lot to get to that point. Now we have COVID-19 with immunizing adults for the most part, and you are seeing the resistance. How are you addressing COVID-19 immunization, and what are some of the differences given that now we're talking about adults versus parents having to vaccinate their children?
Well, really, there isn't not much difference because even with children, it's adults who we have to convince to bring their children to be immunized. So the strategy is similar. One is to reach people using the voices they have trust and confidence in. So traditional leadership have come in very, very useful to us in this campaign to get people to accept. The government, with the support of partners, have been holding town hall meetings across the states in the country. They've so far been quite successful. We also use celebrities who also people know, who people also believe in. So we have these billboards, around Lagos just to get the message, across to the adult population because it is really to them that we need to appeal. Well, the rollout has gone relatively smoothly. I wish we had more vaccines because for a population of at least 2 100 million people, one will assume that you will have an eligible group. We're talking now of population above the age of 18, who will have at least 140 eligible people for immunization. So far, we've done only 1 million. So it's a long, long, long way to go. Right now, I'm aware of the COVAX vaccines. I also, hear that we are expecting vaccines from the African, Union, vaccine, group. Which vaccine it is, I'm not, quite sure right at the moment. So what we have in the kitty is 3 million doses left out of the 4 million we had 2 months ago.
What would you say are some of the steps to ensure that there is an effective vaccination campaign, even when it comes to not only putting the jabs in people's arm, but also myth and misinformation, tackling those as well?
I think the most important at the top of this area is advocacy. And that is one thing Rotary is very good at doing because we're everywhere. There's virtually no part of this country that are no Rotarians. So Rotarians are on ground to advocate to where it matters most, the grassroots, the traditional leadership, the religious leadership. The traditional leadership is very robust in Nigeria, right to the level, the village level. And it's the same in most parts of Africa. But of course, advocacy to the government at the central and state level is also crucial, because there need to be the political will and the resources put out there to ensure that, the amount of funding and also human resource that are required brought to bear so that the other things can follow. The next is creating public awareness. The people that you are going to vaccinate must know that if you are carrying out a campaign, we are coming to your area at such and such a time. You carry out this awareness through, again, the chain of people they have confidence in and they trust, the print media, the electronic media, social media, to get to them. The next is to make sure the funds are available. Rotary has been quite pivotal to raising the almost 21 billion US dollars that have been spent so far on the effort through advocacy with governments and also raising funds within the organization. I must give, a lot of credit to the Geddes Foundation, who have been working with Rotary in the last, decade and a half. And in recent times, match every dollar Rotary spends on polio eradication with $2. The final one, as you mentioned, is that all of those three efforts will be useless if we cannot actually get to the field and ensure that we get the vaccines to the mouth of the children. And that's a huge logistic undertaking. We're talking about putting in the field 250,000 and beyond in just a small part of the country to actually go in the field and go house to house and give these vaccines to children as far as polio is concerned. So those are the four thematic areas, and that is what has helped us in Nigeria to get to where we're going.
That was Africa 54 health correspondent Linomu Du speaking with Dr. Tunji Funsho, chair of the Rotary's Nigeria National Polio Plus Committee. 57-year-old Kenyan Joyce Cargo's 3 marriages ended when she couldn't have children, leaving her alone and struggling to make ends meet. Joyce is one of many women who are childless in a society where having children is key for acceptance. Ruth Elmendorp reports from Thika, Kenya.
Joyce Cargo cooks as if it was for her family, but it's for a rehabilitation center in Thika, Kenya, northeast of Nairobi. Cargo was married 3 times, but the marriage just fell apart because she was unable to have children. Her last marriage ended 4 years ago when her husband became abusive.
And then the husband started to drink. When he come, he beat me. He tell me, what are you doing here? There is nothing I'm benefiting from you.
As elsewhere in the world, the societal shame of being childless in Kenya is directed most heavily toward women, but not wholly.
In our society, usually parents are sort of identified with the children that they have born. You are called Mama so and so. So Mama and then the name of the child that you have born. Or you are Baba so and so, Baba meaning father, and the child that you have born. So if you don't have a child, then you are ostracized.
Adding to the shame, Kenya's Obstetrical and Gynecological Society says one of the biggest causes of infertility among 5 million adults is sexually transmitted infections. To help childless women like herself to cope and learn skills to make a living, Editah Hadassa in 2017 started the Waiting Wombs Trust.
So the first thing we strive to do is to just create a space where you're free to vent, talk about it. We listen without judging. We allow you to cry if you want to. We say it's a place where we offer free hugs.
For women like Congo, Waiting Wombs Trust is truly like the family they never had. Ruth Almodor for VOA News, Thika, Kenya.
More than a dozen people, including 7 soldiers, have reportedly been killed by Islamist militants in an attack in northeast Nigeria. The militants arrived in the Ajiri community in the Mafa local government area of Borno State on motorcycles early on Sunday, killing an army commanding officer and 6 soldiers, the sources told Reuters news agency. The assailants also killed 6 civilians, burned down 9 housing blocks, and carted away valuables. In a statement, the military said troops repelled the attack, but the militants killed some residents and 2 military personnel. The government of Congo announced Monday it will replace civilian authorities with military administrations in 2 conflict-hit provinces for a month. A surge in attacks by armed militias and intercommunal violence along Congo's border with Uganda have killed hundreds of people since the start of the year. Under the state of siege, which was declared last Friday, governors and provincial assemblies in North Kivu and Ituri provinces will be suspended for 30 days from Thursday. In their place, the government will install military governors and police vice governors with wide-ranging powers. American philanthropists Bill and Melinda Gates, founder of the world's largest charity, have announced they are divorcing. After 27 years of marriage, the couple tweeted they could no longer grow together as a couple. The Microsoft co-founder and his wife said they would continue to work together at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which has an endowment of nearly $50 billion. The foundation has focused on global health and development and U.S. education issues since the beginning of 2000. The couple, who have 3 children, have asked for privacy as they begin to navigate this new phase in their lives. The Gates will become the second high-profile Seattle area billionaire couple to end their marriage in recent years. Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos and Mackenzie Bezos divorced in 2019. A medical report written by 20 doctors on the death of Argentine football legend Diego Maradona concluded he could still be alive if he had been properly hospitalized. The medical panel's reports on Maradona given to prosecutors say he struggled for more than 12 hours and did not receive sufficient treatment. Maradona, who helped Argentina win the 1986 World Cup, is considered one of the greatest football players ever. The report could complicate the defense of 7 people under investigation in the case, including a brain surgeon and psychiatrist who worked for Maradona. We would like to hear what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the discussion on Facebook. Our address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, a photographer brings joy to mothers of babies born during the pandemic. We'll be right back.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linoch Mudu, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living. right here on VOA.
Welcome back to Africa 54. With the first 100 days of his presidency now behind him, Joe Biden faces formidable battles to pass the rest of his legislative agenda on Capitol Hill. VOA's congressional correspondent Katherine Gibson reports on the obstacles Democrats face to pass nearly $4 trillion in legislation.
President Biden promoting his $2.7 trillion American Jobs Plan, first on a list of ambitious proposals up for debate in the U.S. Congress in coming weeks.
Doing nothing is not an option.
That massive bill rebuilding American roads and bridges, boosting internet broadband, and providing clean drinking water, already drawing Republican criticism.
He clearly believes that he can tax, spend, and regulate our country into prosperity.
A battle that will consume attention on Capitol Hill this month.
Things like police reform bill and gun control and immigration, those, in my estimation, are probably going to be kicked to the side right now, with a focus to be on the American Family Plan and the infrastructure bill, knowing that they can get a lot done within those two huge pieces of legislation.
Biden issued a challenge to lawmakers to revisit police reform. A similar proposal failed to pass the U.S. Senate last summer amid protests over the death of George Floyd.
We have to come together to rebuild trust between law enforcement and the people they serve. Let's get it done next month, by the first anniversary of George Floyd's death.
Democrats also introduced a sweeping immigration reform proposal earlier this year that will likely only pass in smaller pieces given the political challenges.
For more than 30 years, politicians have talked about immigration reform, and we've done nothing about it. It's time to fix it.
The chief obstacle to all of these proposals, the filibuster, a 60-vote threshold in the U.S. Senate that will block all but the most bipartisan of proposals.
They are really constrained by the filibuster. But at the end of the day, the question is as much, do they have the votes in their own party to make a change to the filibuster to get some of these things done?
This summer presents the best opportunity for Biden and Democrats to pass their proposals before Capitol Hill's attention turns to passing a government budget and then midterm elections next year. Katherine Gibson, VOA News, Washington.
Foreign ministers representing the Group of 7 industrialized nations are holding meetings Tuesday in London, discussing a range of world issues, including relations with China and Russia, the coup in Myanmar, the Syrian conflict, and the situation in Afghanistan. Britain's Foreign Office said in Tuesday's session, Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab will lead discussions on pressing geopolitical issues that threaten to undermine democracy, freedoms, and human rights. Raab, who held preliminary talks with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken Monday, is expected to urge G7 members to sanction individuals and entities connected to Myanmar's military junta, to support arms embargoes, and to boost humanitarian aid to the people of Myanmar.
On Myanmar, look, we want to see an end to the violence. We want to see the military regime return to democracy and the electoral mandate that the government should have, representing the people of Myanmar. We've been clear, not just in our targeted sanctions, our Magnitsky sanctions, but also wider measures we're taking to stop UK businesses doing business with conglomerates or businesses controlled by the Tatmadaw, that we're going to apply pressure that way.
Elsewhere in the region, Blinken said the United States is ready to engage diplomatically with North Korea to achieve the ultimate goal of the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, following the completion of a months-long U.S. policy review on North Korea.
What we have now is a policy that calls for a calibrated, practical approach that is open to and will explore diplomacy with North Korea to try to make practical progress that increases the security of the United States, our allies, and our deployed forces. And as we're doing that, we will continue to be in very close coordination and consultation with allies and partners, starting with the Republic of Korea and Japan.
The United States is also expected to appoint a special envoy for North Korean human rights issues. Tuesday's meeting comes in preparation for the G7 Leaders Summit scheduled to take place in June, also in Britain. While the pandemic has been a source of grief, it has not stopped joyful events from happening, including thousands of babies being born in this difficult time. Photographer and Geddes, creator of the Joy Project, is encouraging women from around the world to send her pictures of their newborns for publication. And a pick-me-up, Anna Nelson, has the story, narrated by Anna Rice.
For photographer Ann Geddes, a series of coronavirus-inspired lockdowns was a challenge. Constant flipping through newspapers, a short walk around the block, apathy. One of the best-known baby photographers had a hard time adjusting to the new reality. Geddes is known for unique newborn photos, sleeping babies nested in flower petals or flower pots or wrapped in cozy blankets. Her works reached the peak of popularity in the 1990s, when calendars of her photographs adorned walls in thousands of homes. As the quarantine period was extended, Geddes thought, enough, and she found a way to bring joy into the new reality.
Oldest daughter, our two daughters are photographers, wonder why, said, you know, why don't you think about spreading joy, because that's what you've done your whole career. And so we came up with this Joy series, and I had no idea that it would be so impactful for so many people, including myself, because all I did was do one post saying, hi guys, while we all try to make sense of this global pandemic and we're all in voluntary isolation, which is where I am now, I just got to thinking, because I've had a lot of time to think, I've been in the spreading the joy business for the past 30 years. Will you help me to spread the joy around the world by direct messaging me a joyful photograph of your little one?
Geddes hoped to receive responses, but never imagined she would be flooded with gratitude and thousands of pictures of babies born during this incredibly difficult time. What she thought would be a small collection turned into a collective, heartwarming portrait amid the pandemic from more than 80 countries.
As a mother myself, who gave birth, over 30 years ago, I have to take my hat off to these wonderful women around the world who are going through labour and birth, wearing a mask, often without family around them, often without their partner. I simply can't post all of them, right, because there are so many.
But she found a way around that. Geddes created a subscription-based mobile app, a sort of a photo bank for baby pictures, where anyone can upload a picture of their little one and get a personal response from Geddes herself.
I would recommend to people is that they have themselves included in the photograph with their tiny baby, because it gives a sense of perspective, of course, when you see how small tiny babies are, but it lets your child see you when they're an adult as the age that you were when they were born, and it will allow them many years of mocking you for your hairstyle and your wardrobe.
Geddes believes baby pictures have a unique effect on people, calming, heartwarming, bringing joy in the toughest of times.
And that's the power of tiny babies, yeah? You can cut all the flowers, but you can't stop the spring. It's intense joy in tiny little pockets through COVID, but it's still joy nonetheless.
For Anna Nelson in New York, Anna Rice, VOA News.
Have you ever wondered how to turn a hobby into a business? VOA's Vaisa El Masri in Gainesville, Virginia, talks with a woman who has grown her passion for carving personal, often inspirational carved wooden signs into a successful money-making venture.
My name is Dessirae Mantas, and I am the owner of the RUSTIC TEXAN woodshop. Business started as an accident. I just wanted to make signs for myself, give them as gifts to friends, family. I always love the idea of giving a unique piece to someone, not just a candle or something like that, something that people would love and cherish. I think the whole concept of my business is I just want to create custom and unique pieces for people out of wood. There was a sign I created a couple months ago. It was about a guy that moved to Colorado. He was in and out of drug rehab and was just piecing his life together and moved to Colorado for a fresh new start with his partner, was going on hikes and was enjoying life in different ways than he had enjoyed it before. And his sister came to me wanting to make him a sign to showcase this new chapter in his life. We came up with a piece. It was a round sign with mountains and trees, and we put a quote that he used on Instagram a lot. That was her gift to him, and she told me that it was probably the most important piece in his life. He looks at that as a reminder of, this is where I'm at now, and life is good. I just let it all come naturally to me. There really is no specific process. I can't have a specific process because then everything would look very similar. I just let my customers talk, give me ideas of things that they want to incorporate, and then I just try and mesh it as well as I can. One of the biggest challenges that I have with being a small business owner and a stay-at-home mom is I don't have all the time to be with my kids. I had to kind of balance the two out, and in the beginning that was really hard. I didn't understand how to do those two things, but over time I quickly learned to incorporate my kids into my work, let them see what it is I'm doing. I hope that my story can encourage other people that are just beginning or discouraged by everything that they may be facing, and that you don't have to know everything about anything to start out. You just have to have the will, the want, the confidence, and you have to believe in yourself. And I would not have made it this far if I did not.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.